in the screaming winds of the Cordillera Vilcanota, where life wasn't meant to thrive, a structure pierced the sky. The locals called it Intihuerta, Star Spear. For Dr. Elias Thorne, it defied all logic. Dr. Sarah Jenkins, hauling her LiDAR gear, shouted over the wind. Carbon dating suggests 12,000 years. Elias? But the architecture? It's seamless, smoother than the pyramids. The tower was a monolith, 800 feet of geo-polymer stone rising from the mountain's peak. It had no windows, just narrow slits near the top. For decades, satellites mistook it for a natural rock formation. Only a recent glacial collapse revealed its artificial design. The standard theory is, it's a watchtower. Elias yelled back. Sarah scoffed as she reached the plateau, dropping her heavy pack. You don't build a skyscraper in the Stone Age just to watch the sunrise. Elias, and that was the mystery that brought them here. Funded by a private consortium fascinated by anomalous archaeology. Why build so high, where the air was too thin to breathe? Elias's gaze was fixed. Let's open it, he said. The entrance wasn't a door. It was a harmonic lock. This was Elias's groundbreaking discovery. The stone at the base wasn't solid. When the wind hit the mountain at a certain velocity, the structure hummed. Sonic resonance, Elias whispered, placing a hand on the cold stone. Sarah, set the frequency emitter to 432 hertz. Sarah raised an eyebrow. The universe frequency. A bit new age, isn't it? Elias was firm. Just do it. As the low hum from her rig hit the stone, the air began to vibrate. Dust danced off the ground. Then, with a deep, grinding sound that vibrated in their teeth, a 50-ton slab of stone slid silently into the wall. Ancient darkness spilled out. Their flashlights cut through the gloom, revealing a spiral ramp. It had no steps. Just a smooth, upward helix made of a material that shimmered like crushed quartz. No carvings, Sarah noted, her voice echoing. No gods. No kings. No wars. Just geometry. As they ascended, the air felt charged, like the moment before a thunderstorm. The static made the hair on their arms stand up. Elias pointed his flashlight at the walls. Veins of mica and gold were embedded in the dark stone, arranged in sweeping arcs. Circuits? Sarah asked, touching a vein. Or conductors. Elias corrected her. This entire structure, it's not a building. It's a machine. The climb took hours, the spiraling ramp creating a disorienting sense of infinity. Finally, they reached the summit chamber. A vast, perfectly spherical room. The narrow slits they'd seen from outside were positioned with mathematical precision. LiDAR is mapping the interior, Sarah said, her eyes glued to her tablet. Elias, the geometry of this room. It's a perfect acoustic mirror. Whisper in the center, and the sound is amplified 1,000 times. In the center of the room stood a single obsidian pedestal. On it, a concave basin held a heavy, silver liquid that hadn't evaporated in 10,000 years. It looked like mercury. It's almost sunset, Elias said, checking his watch. The vernal equinox. Sarah understood. The alignment. Elias nodded. If my calculations are correct, the light won't hit the wall. It will hit the liquid. They waited. As the sun dipped below the jagged Andean horizon, a single, razor-thin beam of orange light shot through the western slit, focused by a polished quartz lens. The beam struck the mercury. Instantly, the room vanished. The liquid didn't just reflect the light, it refracted it, creating a breathtaking holographic projection. The gold and mica veins in the walls pulsed with internal light. Suddenly, they were no longer in a stone tower. They were floating in space. The walls and ceiling became a perfect map of the night sky, but not the sky of today. That's Draco, Sarah whispered, pointing to a constellation burning bright blue. But the pole star, it's Thuban. This map is from 10,500 BC. Elias murmured, the younger Drius. The time of the great cataclysms. But the projection was more than just a star map. Geometric lines began connecting the stars to points on Earth. One line pointed to Giza, another to Angkor Wat, and another to the very tower they stood in. It's a grid, Elias realized, his mind racing. They weren't just watching the stars, Sarah. They were anchoring them. As the light intensified, the low hum they'd used to open the door returned, growing louder. It wasn't just a sound, it was a vibration that shook them to their core. Elias felt his consciousness waver, the boundaries of his body dissolving. I feel... Sarah stumbled, grabbing the pedestal for support. I feel like I'm expanding. Elias fought to stay grounded. Focus, he commanded, though he felt it to a profound sense of unity, a dissolution of the self. In that moment, he understood the structure's true purpose. It's not an observatory for the eyes, Elias said, his voice trembling with revelation. It's an observatory for the consciousness. We ask if they used this to study moon phases for agriculture. No. That's too small, too primitive. He looked at the rotating star map. They built this to sync the human mind with the celestial rhythm. T's altitude, the stone, the conductors, the resonance. It's a technology to induce a specific brainwave state. Gamma waves? To what end? Sarah asked, her eyes wide with awe. To access information, Elias said, pointing to where the dark rift of the Milky Way was depicted. The light there wasn't static, it pulsed. The ancients believed the center of the galaxy was the womb of creation. By aligning the structure and the observer inside it with that center, they weren't trying to travel there physically. They were traveling there mentally. They were downloading knowledge. As the sun fully set, the beam of light faded. The holographic universe collapsed back into the bowl of mercury, and the glowing veins in the walls dimmed. Silence returned, heavy and profound. Sarah slumped against the wall, breathing hard. That changes everything. History, books, physics, neuroscience. Elias walked to a slit and looked out at the darkening world. Below lay cities full of noise and disconnection. They built skyscrapers for offices and banks. The ancients built this skyscraper to house the soul. They didn't build it to conquer the sky, Elias said softly. They built it to remind themselves that they were already part of it. What do we tell the consortium? Sarah asked. They want artifacts. Pottery. Bones. Elias looked at the dormant mercury basin. We tell them the truth. We tell them we found the machine, but we also tell them that the battery is missing. The battery? Elias tapped his own temple. U.S. The disciplined mind. Without the mental training to handle that resonance, this is just a pile of rocks. We have the hardware, Sarah. But we lost the software 10,000 years ago. They began the long descent. The wind outside still screamed, but inside, the silence held a new meaning. They had gone looking for an observatory, a tool for looking outward. Instead, they had found a mirror, a tool for looking inward, built by a humanity that understood the universe out there and the universe in here were one and the same. The horizon had been crossed.